have visual. Now the question is, do we have sound? So we'll take a second. Let's see if that catches up. Alright, so we have sound? Sweet. What up, Vape fam? Alright, so first and foremost, as always, I want to give some love. Welcome y'all to the show. We appreciate you guys being here with us this afternoon. There's the missus. She'll be running the helms. What's up? And we'll be spending some time here, fam, at the build station. And I want to give a shout out to Mayberry Vapes for allowing us to do the show from the site. Give them some love for allowing us to do it. Got some goodies here, plenty of juice up here on the shelves, so if you want to come by and see us, if you're in the area, definitely do. I also want to give some love to the Vape Lounge 760.com for their love that they show. They make the TVL saws. They make TVL Colt 45s, which is what I'm rocking this afternoon. I'll be doing a simple build on my Colt 45 here with the new cap. It's a little dirty, so guys do excuse the dirtiness. I ain't cleaned it yet this week, or the wife's, and I'll be doing a Fuse Clapton build on her mechanical mod, and then I'll be rocking this one throughout. So I want to jump right into it. So as I'm going along, guys, if you have a question or something, go ahead and type it in there on the screen, and she will shout it out to me, and we'll go from there. So I'll be using this afternoon for my simple build. I got some of this Mad Rabbit Nichrome 90 21 gauge. I love that stuff. And I have some Nichrome and Canthal from Lightning Vapes that I've been doing my Claptons with, my Clapton build. So I've been making them. Greg Meehan, he's on Instagram. I kind of watch him, and he helps me when I run into problems and stuff. So while I'm finished getting set up, go ahead and let us know a hand check where you guys rocking this afternoon. I'm rocking the TVL Colt 45, the aluminum and black, with some Fuse staple. They're dirty, so excuse the dirtiness. With some Native Wicks cotton platinum blend. Vaping on some Cloud Chemistry Vapor, Shortcake Centurion Afro. I swear sometimes they put words on there that challenge me. And as soon as I get the other build on my other mod done, I'll be doing some Cloud 9 on it as well from TGR Vapor. So hope y'all have had a wonderful
Mel is on a Q-Boy 200 watt with mutation V4 and the last of Yam. I Am by Dr. or DRC. What is the taste?
What's the profile of the Yam I Am? I believe Greg Coffee Fuel got somebody's down at Vapor Slam. Drink check while I'm sitting here thinking about it. Sierra Mist. I don't like the fact that they changed the flavor on me, but it is what it is. And then I'll be using some Native Wicks Platinum Blend cotton. So, as you give us the flavor profile, You let me know, Tanya, if it starts to get warm in here. Because I got the sun beating on me. And it's a little warm.
Sweet potato pie with marshmallow.
Ah, that's what I had a feeling it was. I'm just going to take 2 of my 5s. I don't know about that. Sweet potato. Sweet potato. Awesome stuff. I've seen quite a few people with it, so. Alright, so as I get set up here. Okay. I also want to give some love to cloudchemistryvapor.com for the love they show, and TGR Vapor.com for the love they show as well. I know I didn't forget, I just got sidetracked. So check those guys out. And if you want to give me a heads up when somebody enters the room, I'll give them a shout out too.
Cheryl says she's on the sub-box mini with some don't know flavor.
Ah. So, I don't even know what kind of flavor or some don't know flavor. That's interesting.
Cheryl's in the room, Mel's in the room, and if I pronounce the name wrong, forgive me.
Hello, Cheryl.
Lesbia.
Hello, Melanie. And who'd you say?
Lesbia.
Oh,
they left.
Yeah, no. Well, hello and goodbye. So, alright, so I don't want to lose too much time here. If you get ready to build your coils, I would suggest getting a Coil Master kit. We sell them up here at the shop for $19.95. It comes with a jig. With
It's Mel Whipple.
Mel Whipple. Gotcha. Well, welcome, Mel. Comes all the way down to like a 1 to 4 millimeter diameter jig. I use it all the time just because I have arthritis in my hands and I can't always roll it by hand. And doing the fuse claptons and stuff is challenging as it is. So if I have the opportunity to use a jig, I'll use a jig. Wire cutters, I always keep a couple needle nose pliers on hand. You'll need a screwdriver for your atomizer or an Allen wrench, and tweezers, and then of course your scissors for cotton. And then I also got a 3 millimeter screwdriver to wrap the fuse claptons on. So with that being said, the first thing I'm going to do is, I do not have a battery in this mod. I'm going to take the screwdriver. Right now there's a set of fused, looks like 24-34 gauge claptons that I put on earlier last week. I'm going to go ahead and just take them out. Normally I would save them, clean them up and save them, but as I perfect my clapton rolling skills, I could use to practice, so I'll just jerk them out and throw them away. And I just broke my tweezers again. But if you ever buy claptons or make claptons, I always tell people if they buy a set of fused claptons to unwick it, take the cotton out, and then go to the bathroom and grab you some soap, water, and a toothbrush and just scrub them clean, rinse them off, put them back, put your atomizer back on your mod, and then simply dry them off, heat them up, make sure they heat evenly, re-wick it, and go at it again. I can get 2 weeks, depending on how sweet your juice is. I can get about 2 weeks out of a set of claptons easy. We had a guy come in this past week that I had put a set of fused claptons in his Griffin, and they'd been in there for a month and a half. I went back there, scrubbed them clean, re-wicked it, and it was good to go. So, alright, but for this one I'm just going to do a normal build, simple, nothing fancy, something I would probably use for a comp. So all I did was strip it out. I'm left with the Kennedy RDA, 24mm RDA on the Colt, and then I'm going to grab my Mad Rabbit wire. And this Nichrome 90 is a different beast in itself. I like it because it is super easy to bend, and you can see I'm just straightening out a chunk there. I overcompensate in length, so I'll cut off about, I don't know, about a 5-inch piece there. And I'll cut 2 of them, one for each side. And I'll just take the wire cutters and cut 2 pieces. Then I'll stash the wire back in the Mad Rabbit bag. Set it off to the side because we do not no longer need it. So I'm going to turn the camera down. To what I'm really limited on space, so forgive the mess. My table isn't the cleanest, but it is used. Alright, so here we are. I'm left with my jig. All I did was before the show I found my 4mm bit, which it tells you the diameter on the end of it, and I'll just put it through the cap and screw the cap on, and I'm going to do a 4mm diameter. I like the 4mm diameter on these because it allows me to wick a lot of cotton in there. It gives me a little bit more ohms, and I don't have to juice as near as much. So I take my 5-inch piece of wire and I'll slide it through the top hole on the jig, and I'll pull it through until there's just a little bit left over, and then I'll mash it down and hold it with my thumb. And then I'll just take the other side and push it up against the jig face. I'll find the 4 diameter hole, simply put it in, count as I go. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then once I get my, you can see it's a perfectly spaced, no gaps, good micro pull. And then I'll just take my fingers and just pull out on the other side. And then what I like to do is just take some pliers and I'll straighten up this other wire to sort of match what I've already got on the other side. Try to make it as straight as possible. Now with Camthol it's not always the easiest, but and then I'll take my pliers, put it up against the edge, and I'll bend it just a little bit to make an L shape. And remember guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay? So with that one done, I'll just do the exact same thing with my other piece of nichrome. I'll slide it in, bend it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pull it out. Sometimes it can be stubborn. Then I'll take pliers and I'll straighten it up the best that I can and put the little L shape in the that other wire. I do that because I find it to be a little bit easier to get in the RDAs and maneuver around. So with both of them, in there, now normally I would take a screwdriver and do this, but I don't have a 4mm screwdriver, so I'll do this by hand and the jig. I'll take the L-shaped bent leg and stick it on the outer post, which would be the negative post. Then I'll slide both legs through the center, and I will leave some space in between the positive and negative post and the end of the where the coils begin. And the reason I do that is so that once I get them in there and tighten them down, I can push them over top the air holes. So once I get that on there, I'll just quickly sort of just snug it a little bit with the screwdriver. Okay, and then I'll pull away just a tad to make sure I still have my space in between there, and then I will maneuver them over. Try to get them as close to center of that post over the air holes as you can, and you can see they won't be perfectly over, but the majority of the airflow will be on the coils itself. Double check to make sure it's not touching at the bottom. You don't want it to touch your air holes, so I'll actually move these up just a tad. And then once I get it centered where I want it and got it pushed over, I will take my wire cutters and snip the ends. Now, the next step is you got a choice. You can do the exact same thing to the other side and put them both in and heat them up at the same time, but what I find works best is I'll heat up one side after I install them, pull it off, and then I'll put the other side in and I'll heat that side up. Clean that out a little bit, it's a little dirty down in there. This is my everyday go get them mod. Okay, so now, what I'll do is I'll grab a battery. I use the 25Rs from Samsung. Put my battery in, I'll screw the top cap on, and then I'll adjust the button up to snug the battery. And then I will take my ceramic tweezers and I'll just pulse them real quick to get some heat built into them. And just every so often I'll squeeze them to try to get them to heat evenly. Sometimes you may have to scrape them, and you can see I'll show you guys the best I can, the color change is starting to happen across them. So this just takes a little time, a little patience, but you want them to heat from the inside out. There we go. Alright, so that's pretty close. I'll cool it off real quick. So you can sort of see that it heats from the inside out. Once you have that, put your mod down, let it cool off a bit, because you got to pull it. I pulled the coil out so I can get the other side in and do the same thing. So I'll blow on it a little bit. And what I'll do is I'll just slide the jig back in real gently like. And the reason I find that this works best for me is just simply because what happens is once I get it to heat pretty much even, it's not as hard to get, once you install both coils, to get them both to heat evenly. It seems to make it go a little bit faster. So I have that. I took that coil out. I'm going to take the battery out. And it, you know, it is different steps, and you don't always have to do it the exact same way I do mine. And then I'll insert and do the exact same thing to the other side. No questions yet?
Nope.
Okay.
They're listening to you.
Alright, so again, I'll look for that space in between the coil and the post, so I have room to push it over. and then I'll hold it in place and screw down the post. And then once I have it in the jig, I will push it over and maneuver it to get it about the same spot the other side was. And with Kanthal, you can imagine this is a job. It wears on your fingers. So that's good. Then once I get that centered it in there and screwed down, I'll go ahead and take the snips and I will snip off the legs, the spare legs, so you're left with this again. Exact same way as the other side. Then I'll put the battery back in. And the reason I take the batteries out, because if anybody's built coils before, at one point in time in their life they've left the battery in and hit the button and it fired and burnt some flesh. So I always try to take the battery out and screw that just a tad so I can make sure it's on there good. Screw the button back up, it's snug, no battery rattle. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing with the ceramic tweezers. So I'll just pulse it real quick just to get some red in there. Sometimes you may have to double check your atomizer leads, because as you push them over it can work the screws back out some. Pulse it again, and with this nichrome you'll see, I don't know how well you can see on camera, but you'll start to see the color changes as it goes across. And then you just scrape and pinch a little bit until you pulse it and get it to heat from the inside out. So that's what you're left with. So again, I'm going to let that cool off for a second. And you can experiment with different sizes as far as diameter, inside diameter. Sometimes I'll do a 2.5, a 2, a 3, or a 4, but 4 is usually my go-to. Just so, because I don't have to drip as much, because there's so much cotton in there. So once it cools off a little bit, I'll go ahead and pop that battery out again for you guys. Take it off, set it to the side. Screw this back up. You know, there's a few extra steps in here that I do, but it's just, you don't have to. You can install both sides at one time if you like and pulse them together. I just find this to be a little bit easier for me in the long run. Then I'm going to take the other pre-made coil we just did, the first one, and then I'm going to slide it back into the post holes. Once I have it where I want it, I'll just take the screwdriver and tighten them down. I hear the ice cream truck outside. And you don't want to over tighten your leads, because you don't want to snap the screw off in there, and you don't want to snap the legs of the wire either. And then you may have to reposition it a little bit as you put it in there. And then what I do is I look for, make sure they're parallel across, because it does affect it some. And I look to make sure they're pretty even up and down and not touching the air holes and such, until you get something that looks similar to this. And it just takes a little practice here and there. So once you get them both installed and you know your leads are tight, we'll install the battery again. And hopefully there won't be too much heating necessary going on. So I insert the battery, top cap is tight, tighten up the button, no battery rattle. then pulse them real quick. And you're going to notice that it takes a little, oh, looky there, he didn't even have to do it. They both heat the same. And that's a pretty daggone perfect build. So I didn't even have to retweeze them, so that's pretty nice. So that's basically all there is to it. I'll let it cool off some. And then we'll go to the wicking. Alright, so this Native Wicks Platinum blend, me and my wife both love it. My wife got a burnt hit on it, and she just juiced it back up and kept vaping. I've had this cotton last a week. If I cover up my mod so there's nothing that can, you know, contaminate the cotton or anything, but I've had it in there a week and it still juices. And great flavor, no break-in time. I think we give $8 a bag. And it comes in a big old bag like this, big old rope. So what I do is I'll find the end, and I will pull off about maybe an inch. Then I'll take my scissors and I'll cut it. Stuff the rest back in, set it off to the side. Now you'll see is if I mash down on it a little bit, there's a little bit of there's a lot of width there. So what I try to do is break it in evenly in half the best I can. Sometimes I'll have to trim off a little bit like that to put off to the side. I can use that for an RTA build or something. And then once I think I got the right amount of cotton for each side, is I'll take one, and the nice part about this is the channels is all one way. So I'll just take the end of it and twist it. Nice and tight. I may even lick it a little bit because this is my mod. And if you're not comfortable, cut your mod off or take the battery out. And then I will just slide it through. And you want a little bit of resistance, but not a whole lot. And I'll pull it through both sides to where it sort of breaks into the center of the coil there. And then I'll do the exact same thing to the other side with the other piece of cotton I have in half. Twist. If it's your mod, you can lick it and stick it. Gently pull it through, and I like to give mine a tug on each side. And then that's what you're left with. So then I'll just take my scissors, put it up against the mod, and snip off the excess. Try to make it look like that. Okay, so I'll throw that away. Seal up the cotton. Now the next part, what you want to use, you use the ceramics, or I have a pair of tweezers that I use specifically for this next step because they're so thin. And I got these tweezers in another Coil Master kit I had purchased last year, but they're real fine, slender, got nice sharp points. So what I'll do is I will just grab it at the bottom and tuck it into the juice channels of the Kennedy. And with a 4mm diameter, there is a lot of cotton here. And it does choke the airflow some, so then I'll just have to move the cotton back a little bit so it ain't covering up too much of that second air hole. And if you guys are in the area and I'm at the shop, you can come in and see me, and I'll do a build for you. That's kind of what I like to do, is build, come up with some crazy ideas. So once I have them both in there, then I'll look at the air holes again, and just to make sure they're not covering up too much of the air holes under the coal, I'll maneuver it around, and you get it all tucked in there. It looks about something like this. And it's this side, it seems a little wacky. And I'll just make sure I get it all tucked in there real nice. Then, again, this is all how you want to do it, but what I like to do is I will take some juice and I'll start to dab it on the cotton so it can go ahead and start absorbing, and you'll be able to see, the best I can show you, how quick this stuff absorbs into it. Now if you want to try the Native Wicks Platinum blend, make sure it is the Platinum blend and not the normal one that's in the puck, because it's a little different. Make sure it comes in a bag and it says Platinum on there, but it absorbs juice extremely quick. Quicker than cotton bacon, in my opinion. And you can see it, by the time I get around to both sides, it's already absorbed. So the second time I go around is I'll put some on top of the coil, and I'll show you why in a minute. On top of that coil, and then I'll juice it a little bit right here, and then I'll just quickly pulse. And what it does, it heats the coil up and sucks that juice into it. So I'll do the same, put some juice back on top of the coils, give it a little pulse, and then I'll go back and put some more juice on it just to absorb it into the center. And since there is a lot of cotton in here on that 4mm diameter, I will put some down in the juice channels, just so we don't have no dry hits. And then once you get it all painted up nice and purty, you can see she's a chucker. I'll pulse it a couple times and I'll go ahead and put some more juice back on it. And then put your top cap back on. You'll have to vape it a little bit. Like I said, with so much cotton in here, I'll have to go back after it's wet and open up that air hole some, because it is choked a little bit, so that those coils can get plenty of airflow. I hadn't had a 4mm diameter coil on here in a while, so I'm not used to that airflow, but I'll try it again. And you're good to go. Happy dripping. Okay, so that is just like a normal build for me. Something I can run that on a daily basis. So I already know all the ohms and stuff. So now on to the fused Clapton. I'll be using my wife's brass and black TVL with the new cap. She's never had a flavor build put on her mod before, so I'm kind of excited to do that for her. And I'm going to show you how I do my Claptons. This takes a little bit more time, and do excuse the dirtiness of the mod. I've not cleaned hers, and I've been a bad husband. I've not cleaned hers this week. But I'll check to make sure there's no battery in it. No battery. No battery. Alright, and then I will do the exact same thing that I did to my TVL and Kennedy, is I'll take the old build off and throw it away. Or if it's a fairly new build, you can keep your coils, but these has been on here for about a week or so, so I'm going to go ahead and chuck them. Undo the screws, take that off. So I will be polishing and cleaning her mod this probably tomorrow, so watch my Instagram page and I'll put it on there all nice and pretty. Alright, so now I'm going to show you, once I got that cleared off, I got a fresh deck to work with. I'll set it to the side, And what I want to do now is get my other tools out here to show you how I do this for my Claptons. I've been testing my fused Claptons. That's the reason I ain't put one on hers yet, because I want to make sure it's good. I don't want to give my wife something half done. What I basically did is I went to Walmart and I got some fishing spinners. Make sure they have the ball bearings. And I have to change them out I should change them out once every 2 weeks, but I've not been to Walmart in a while, so I'm going to use the old ones I got here. With the size gauge I'm using and everything, and it ain't really going to bother me too much, but it can bind up. I get all different sizes, and I start with the biggest one, then I'll go down a size, and then down one more size. So I think that's the size 4, 3, and 2 that I'm using on here. And then I just simply hooked a loop, it's like a paper clip thing, into my pliers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin this camera around. Once you get those spinners set up, I have a vise, and I will hook this into my vise. And I want to try to get it as level as I can with the drill. And this is pretty much a guesstimate until I get my drill in there. And I'll tighten that down. And there's what it looks like all set up. And that's what I'm going to loop my wire through. I also have, if you'll notice, I fixed up a little holder here for my wire that I'm actually going to Clapton with. I'm going to bend that down for you. So to do it, you really need, there's other easier setups, but this is what I seem to work best for me. And I'm actually going to do, with hers, I'm going to do 36 gauge Nichrome 80. That's one, because she uses mech mod. I know if I do 24 with 36 Nichrome, I can get it down to about 0.1, 0.15, which is safe for the mech mod. So if you want to be safer, if you're running like a series box and you want more higher ohms, use straight Kanthal for your inside and your outside. But like for a mech mod, I use the Nichrome 80 inside and outside. So, and what I'll do is I'll just take this and this has not even been used. I'm getting ready to break its virginity here, Tanya. As I'll pull it out and make sure I can get to it fairly easy. And then I'll just take the center of my holder that I made up. I'll take the nuts off. And all the holder is I screwed a eye bolt into the side of the desk. That, and the washer covers and holds it in there tight. And I put 2 nuts on the bottom to hold this on top. And then I will put the first nut down and just gently put it on there. You don't want it too tight. You want it to free spin. And then I'll put the second nut on top of it and tighten the second one down so that that first one doesn't move. And that's sort of what you're left with. There's the wire, and there's the holder and the roller wire. So, alright, so I have that set up. Now, I use 24 gauge Nichrome 80 for the inside. Again, if you want to do a series Clapton, I suggest using Kanthal. Or if you want to mix it, you can do Nichrome inside and Kanthal outside, because the Nichrome is going to heat a lot quicker than the Kanthal. Don't reverse that, because it's no good. So I'm going to use 24 gauge, and normally I would take the 24 and match it with 34, but with the Kennedy having such small post holes, I'm going to go ahead and use 36. So what I'll do here is take my pliers and I'll take off And I'm going to stretch out from one end of the desk to the other because that's about the size, and I'll stretch the wire a little bit with my pliers, and then I'm going to cut off. It's probably at least I don't know, Tiny, how long is that?
About
3 foot?
3 feet.
About 3 foot. So I got 3 foot of wire. Then I'm going to take my pliers or wire cutters, and I'm going to snip it, and then I'm going to hold on to that wire. I'm going to lock the other wire back into here the best I can. And then I'm going to put the 24 up. Alright, so I'm going to take my 3 foot of wire, and I'm going to make an L shape in the end of it. And some drills you don't have to do this because the jaws are locked down on it, but with mine it doesn't do that. I don't have that luxury, so I have to bend the L shape. And then I'm going to put the L shape into the end of the drill, and I'm going to lock the jaws down. And then I'm going to take a quick sip of soda. Y'all are really great students, I want to add, because I ain't heard one question yet. Take a drink of soda. Take a vape. Then I'm going to take my other needle nose pliers, and I'm going to hold and stretch out this 24 gauge and grip on the very end of it. And then I'm just going to spin it, and I'm going to count to approximately 15. So here we go. And then I'll just run my fingers down the wire and let go. And you're left with a long, straight piece of 24 gauge. Y'all been such good students, I think I'm just going to have to do a giveaway here shortly. Alright, so I'm going to flip back over to my setup with my spinners. And then I'm going to take that 3 foot piece of 24 gauge, and I'm going to slide it through the center, and I'm going to match up the ends on the other side as best as I can. I'm just going to gently pull a little bit, so you're left with 2 pieces of 24 gauge that's ran in parallel. I used to cut them separately and then loop them at the end, but I found this to be a little bit easier. And then I'll just run my fingers down and just try to straighten it as best as I can. And then I'm going to flip you guys around again. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy. And then I'm limited for space, so what I'm going to do here is pull my fingers down to where the tip of the jaws are on the drill. And I'm going to take one wire and I'm going to fold it out, and I'm going to take the other wire and fold it out in the opposite direction, so you're left with something that looks like this. And then what you want to do is I'm going to slide both pieces of wire into the jaws. Now this is probably the most tedious part, and when you're doing fused staple Claptons, it's really tedious trying to get that ribbon straight down the center, but I think I have found a trick for it, and if it works out next week, I will share with you guys. So I'll get them both in there, and once I think they're both straight and tight, I'll just simply lock the jaws on the drill, tighten it down, and then pull it straight. You want to make sure both wires are fairly close together, and I'm going to do the best I can to get an inside shot on this for you. You'll see both wires are fairly parallel. There's a little space, but that'll close up when we start the Clapton. Okay, so I'll zoom that back out. I'm going to put you guys back down again. I really need to ask them for a bigger desk. Alright, so I'll move this out of the way so I can slide over. Alright, so you'll see the legs over here that we made, and I suggest cutting off about half of what I had left and leaving just enough to, you know, where it reaches the top of the chuck that you lock with. And I'll tell you the reason why here in a moment. When people roll Claptons, sometimes they'll lock the Clapton wire inside with these parallel wires, and I seem to waste a lot more wire doing that. So what I found out was easier is I'll reach over here and grab the Clapton wire and unroll a little bit. And I know you guys probably can't see as well as I'd like you to, but I'm going to loop over top a couple times, and then to lock that wire I'm going to wrap it around the outside of the legs. And what that's going to do is it's going to lock that wire in, so when you start to spin you're ready to go. So I spin clockwise so I can watch the Clapton wire as we go up. So once I got them locked into the legs that's on the outside, I'll just give the drill a few turns here and get it started. And I'll probably start about a quarter-inch out. Doesn't have to be perfect because it's only the start. Now, I'll try to do this the best I can for you guys. I'll take my right hand and I'll grab the wire and just give it a little bit of pressure, and I'll let the Clapton wire that we had over here off to the right on the holder run underneath my palm. And I keep a slight angle on it as I get ready to roll so that it locks into the two fused wires together pretty tight. And you don't need a whole lot of pressure, you just want to give it a little bit. Then I'll use my left hand to start the drill. And don't be scared of it. Okay? If you mess up, you can unwind a little bit and do it, and I'm sure I will, so I'll show you how to do that too. So once I got it started, I'll just stare at that one little spot and get back here where I want to be. And then I start off real slow, and I'll let it gently start rolling. And the more you do, the faster you can go. I usually try to do it on low speed and don't go no higher than that, so I don't have too many issues. And it is tedious work, but like I said, the more you do, the better you'll get at it. And then as it starts to roll and go down the wire, I'll just gently slide my hand down as it goes with it. I don't have to move a whole lot, just a little bit at a time. And you know, you can practice just doing single strand Claptons, but I find more flavor in the fuse. And you can mix up the gauges. I tend to do better rolling bigger gauges, so like 24, 34, you know, 26, 32, or 26, you know, because I can see it a lot better. I'm about half blind anyway. And I'm sure I'll mess up here for you guys shortly, so be patient with me. Now, if you ever venture into the alien wires, it is a little bit different. If you mess up, you can't really back up on it. I've not mastered it yet, so that's still a work in progress. don't get frustrated with it, guys, because when I first started, I wasted a whole lot of wire practicing. So there's no better feeling than rolling your first set of clappings on your own. I apologize in advance for the noisy drill. And you may spend some time in wires, figuring out the correct tension and how much tension you should put. It's trial and error. It's one of those things you sort of have to try it for yourself. But once you get it, it's muscle memory. I know the camera don't show it, but I'm over half done, so. And I am working on dragon scales at the moment. I don't have 33 gauge, but I will show you guys some dragon scales if you want to improve your foil building skills. I tried a set with 34 gauge instead of 33, and it turned out okay, but it ain't nothing I want to brag about just yet. And you can watch some people on YouTube and stuff do these, and sometimes they'll put the wire, roll a wire right up against it and spin it. I tried it that way. I don't have as much success with it. So I found out this way is what works best for me. And you can try it either way. You may be better at it than I am when it comes to putting it up against the How long did it quit?
You're still. I'm just now getting a.
Alright, I quit connecting, so it should come back.
Now.
Did any of you guys miss that?
See? Just now started doing that.
Oh, it just now started doing that? Let me know when I come back live.
Keeps cutting out on no. Now.
Alright, where did I lose anybody? I finished Claptoning and wire. Okay. And I stopped where the wires start to spread apart, and then I snipped the Clapton wire, secured it, and then I'm just going to cut the other two off here at the very end so I can free that wire up. And then I'll throw the access here away, and then we'll flip you guys back around. I'm hoping the camera shows up because it looks pretty good. I'll undo it from the chuck of the drill, and then I will take and cut this end off where I started. So I'm left with one strand of 24 gauge fused Clapton with 36 gauge Nichrome 80, and I'm hoping this shows up pretty good on here. Sort of what it looks like. And you'll notice that there's a little bit of a twist to it. Don't worry about the twist because I'm going to show you guys how to handle that as well. So now when you got your first strand of fused Clapton wire, and because I have arthritis, I had to develop a technique how to wrap this without hurting my hands. I'm going to wrap it on a 3mm screwdriver. So what I'll do is I'll take the Clapton wire, put it up, the flat edge up against the screwdriver facing me, and I'm going to grab a set of pliers and I'm going to grab the top end. So you're sort of left looking like this, and if you look at the front of the wire, it's hard to do it this way, but if you look at the front you can see there's a twist right here before I even start. Alright, so to get the twist out is I'll take my other set of pliers as soon as I find them. Could you believe I've lost them on this? They're over here. And then I'm just going to look which way the wire's twisted, and then I'm just going to come down a little ways and pull it back straight. So I'm left with a good starting flat edge. And then I'm going to start the bend underneath, over, and then that's one wrap. And you can sort of see as I go along, a lot of it will straighten itself out, but if you get to a point where there's a twist in the wire, stop wrapping, grab your second set of pliers and just twist it. So I'm going to do another wrap. Try not to hit myself in the face and come down. So I got 3 on there and it's starting to twist. So I'm just going to take some pliers and just give it a little bit of a tug there and twist it back the other way. I'm going to go wrap another. So we're at 4. I'll wrap another. That's it. 5. And then every now and then, because I don't know exactly how many wraps is, I'll sort of just size check it. And I'm probably going to get one more in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Double check my count here. And then I'll just gently take your time rolling these around that screwdriver, because a lot of that wire is straightening itself out. so we should be live again. Alright, you with me, guys?
Almost. Says it's initializing. Where's that?
I don't know, my phone's up there, baby.
I don't know if it's important or not.
Let me know when I'm back.
You're back.
No, it's not important because I don't have the number of my phone. It's 237-0636.
Why don't you give me your phone?
Because I have to plug it up.
0636?
Yeah.
Where you at?
Huh? Me either, so it's important to open this. Alright guys, so you back with me now, hopefully. All I did was take the first set of Claptons that we rolled, and this is what we got so far. And I make sure there's space in between the coil and here because I need to push them over just a tad. And then that's what I'm going to do, is just put a little bit of pressure on there and push them over. So you're sort of left with that. Okay? Slide the screwdriver out, and then I'm going to take the wire cutters, snip the ends. And then with the fuse Claptons, I generally install one set, pull it out, install the other set. Get off my mouth a little bit here. And then heat them up together. It's just easier for me to do it that way when I'm dealing with fuse Claptons. Because once, in my experience, once I have them in here and they're set, then it doesn't really take a whole lot to get them to heat up evenly. So I'm going to take the next set and I'm going to install into the Kennedy RDA. I'm pretty sure I had that in there this way, and I did. So I need it on this side. So I hope you guys didn't miss a whole lot. Okay, so again, I'm going to install them in there. Leave some space in there so you can push them over. Hold it with your thumb, and then we're going to tighten it down with the screwdriver. So hopefully the 224 gauge and 36 gauge will fit in these holes. Pretty sure it will. And like I said, you can get fancy with it, and one of these days I'll show you how to do parallels with it. Alright, once I get them in there, I'm just going to gently push them over so that they're over top the air holes. Once they are, you can sort of see there, I'm going to snip the legs off, the access legs off here, like so. And then all I'm going to